And I'll tell you, the first 4 months or so, Ryan, for lack of better words, we were on cruise control. We were doing so good, and it's reflected in some of the video that we have of him, where a child that has leukemia that undergoes chemotherapy, there's adverse reactions to that, and obvious things like losing hair and sickness and nausea. Well, Ryan was a very, very difficult diagnosis, and in fact, his diagnosis extremely rare amongst leukemia patients. Um, so they hit him as hard as you can get hit with chemotherapy. And he didn't lose all of his hair. He didn't have the nausea, etc. And really up and through about middle of May, we were, in fact, just talking with the doctors about pulling out his Hickman catheter out of his chest and coming back to Rogers in July. And, we saw God's provision throughout that entire process, but we always said God's will be done. And you put it before God and thank him for what is transpiring in our son's lives. We had a specific day where I'll never forget, a 2-day weekend that I'll never forget. He was doing fine. May 31st, he wanted to go see The Lost World because he loved Jurassic Park. And when he had his first 60 days in the hospital, the theme of his room was Looney Tunes, and we had pictures that reflect that, and we had his room decorated up so that every nook and cranny was motivating to him, and it was Looney Tunes kind of cute. May 31st, I took him to see The Lost World, and on that day, we talked about the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he was asking me about, do they give wishes to everybody, and are you guaranteed a wish? Do you die if you're going to get a wish? And we sat down in that theater and talked that, in your case, Ryan, you're doing very, very well. You're kind of ahead of the game. We're talking about being home in 2 months. Make-A-Wish Foundation is a wonderful organization, but they also give wishes to people that are not terminal. You're not terminal. And a picture was taken of Ryan and I. We took 2 pictures at the theater, but little did I know that 2 days later he was going to be diagnosed, well, actually readmitted to the hospital 2 days later, and then diagnosed as a relapse 4 or 5 days later, which really was June 2nd. He went back into the hospital and never came out. That was a Saturday, May 31st. June the 1st was a Sunday, and we out of the blue decided to take him to an amusement park and took the girls, and we had the most fun. I think he had the most fun that he has ever had, riding rides, doing things that he never had the opportunity to do. So, those days are precious to us, but again, God's provision throughout the entire process. So that weekend is always a turning point for me, because the next morning he had a rash on his stomach, and we took him in and they admitted him, and that was a Monday. On Friday, he had his first relapse. And a relapse basically means that you're in the fight again, and they hit you with chemotherapy.